it's Emma and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm very excited to explore palm oil because I have heard some environmentalists say it's better than other oils. I have heard some environmentalists strongly palm oil is the worst oil ever. So I wanted to do some research for myself and form my own opinions about this topic, and I encourage you to do the same. Don't just take my opinion as gospel. Basically today I want to unpack the pros to palm oil, the cons to palm oil, how we can improve palm oil farming, and should we even be supporting palm oil or not. So if you're interested in learning more about this, grab yourself some coffee because it might be a little bit of a long one today. If you find that I talk a little bit too fast for you, there are two things that might help you out. First, you can follow along with the blog post version of this video, linked down below, or you can change the speed of this video using the gear icon right down here. So let's start with the pros to palm oil. What even is sustainable palm oil? Certified sustainable palm oil and palm kernel oil are produced on plantations of palm that are independently audited and certified against the Roundtable on Sustainable Palm Oil. For brevity's sake, I'm going to call it RSPO from here on out. The RSPO was established in 2004 in order to help promote the responsible use of palm oil. Roughly 40% of the world's producers of palm oil are part of the RSPO. Here are the 8 criteria and principles the RSPO holds their customers to: commitment and transparency, compliance with laws and regulations, commitment to long-term economic viability, use of best practices from growing to producing, environmentally responsible and conservation of natural resources and biodiversity, consideration for employees and the community affected by the growing, responsible development of the new plantings, and commitment to continuous improvement in key areas. Obviously, there are many issues here, but we'll unpack that in the cons section. Okay. Now I want to talk about why palm oil actually might be the best oil in some cases. So producing any type of oil is going to contribute to deforestation in some way, whether that's palm oil, sunflower oil, avocado oil, you name it. They're all going to contribute to deforestation in some amount because the land has to be cleared in order to plant that plant, whether that be oil palms, sunflowers, coconut trees, palm trees, whatever, you get the point. But the good news with palm oil is that it actually produces the largest yield out of all of the different kinds of oil plants. It can produce the same amount of product as most other vegetable oils, but using 9 times less land. So in some instances, transitioning to vegetable oil, rapeseed oil, whatever, it could actually lead to more deforestation. And I think this is why a lot of environmentalists say palm oil is fine, at least in moderation. Obviously, like we talked about in my overconsumption versus overpopulation video, overconsumption of anything is going to be bad for the environment. Maybe if we're using palm oil responsibly, it's not a bad thing. We're going to jump into it later why actually banning palm oil could be more detrimental to the earth. So stay tuned for that. Basically, more palm oil can be produced from, say, 1 acre of land than other oil crops. Palm oil uses about 10% of the farmland dedicated to oil crops, but produces 35% of the global plant oils. And honestly, if you look on the back of just any random item in your house, it might contain palm oil. For example, one of my favorite items, Biscoff cookie butter. It contains palm oil. Nutella, a lot of beauty products, other sorts of candies and chocolates. You'd be surprised how many products that you bring into your home, into your life, actually contain palm oil. So palm oil is used to that extent because it's so cheap, but producers would have to replace palm oil with another oil. So if we ban palm oil completely, we would have to use another oil that takes up more land. Another small pro to palm oil is it's actually really low on the allergen list because a lot of vegetable oils might contain peanut oil, which is a high allergy. A lot of people are also allergic to coconuts, and it does not contain any sort of tree nut protein, so it is safe for anyone who is allergic to tree nuts. So considering most other oils that we use in common production are actually allergens for a lot of people, this makes palm oil a really viable ingredient in a lot of products. And that's about it for the pros, at least in my opinion. Let me know if you have more pros to palm oil down below. So now let's jump into the cons. First is that most palm oil is still produced unsustainably. I think if we can get all of the palm oil farmers in the world to jump on board to getting RSPO certified, which isn't great, stay tuned, or just commit to being more eco-friendly, I think palm oil would become a better choice. Not a great choice, but at least a better one. So as we learned in the pro section, there is still 60% of palm oil produced that is not RSPO certified. And again, we'll get to the issues with RSPO in a minute. That is many acres of land in many countries going unregulated. When unregulated, palm oil production leads to deforestation, habitat loss, loss of biodiversity, endangerment of species, ecological imbalance, displacing people, poor labor conditions, excessive pesticides and herbicides, and of course, all of that can lead to climate change in some form or fashion. So it becomes quite the snowball effect for a few companies to make another $1 million. And I think this becomes a tricky thing with a lot of companies is they're just like, oh, you know, what's one acre of unsustainable palm oil practice, and then they expand, and then they expand, and then eventually they're leading to habitat loss, species extinction, and displacement of people. But again, this is not just palm oil. This is a lot of different oils, and this is also even things like soy production, clearing land for cattle. So I'm not just trying to put the blame on palm oil itself for deforestation. It's a lot of things contributing to deforestation, but palm oil is a big one. Even though palm oil is the most sustainable oil in terms of yield, it is still contributing so much to the issues listed. For example, in order to stop the destruction of biodiversity in Southeast Asia, palm oil farmers need to halve deforestation completely. Like we talked about within my biodiversity series, the rainforests are some of our most biodiverse places on the planet, and we're using these areas to grow oil palms, meaning we're getting rid of biodiversity at incredible rates. Not to mention orangutans, gibbons, and tigers, as well as 191 other species are threatened by palm oil production and could eventually become endangered if not already. Now, let's deal with the issues behind RSPO. Here's a quick screen capture of their commitments again. The first issue I have is how vague they are. Now, perhaps this is just what they have on their website. Maybe they go more in depth with the companies that they're certifying. I don't know. It's really tricky. Like, good for them for putting their standards on public display, but like, wow, that is up for so much interpretation. Number 3 especially bothers me, commitment to long-term economic viability. That just sounds like as long as they're continuing to profit and they're not like becoming bankrupt or something from using this land, that it's fine. Oh, as long as Hershey is going into Malawi, stealing their land, planting palm trees, and displacing people and killing animals, it's fine as long as they're making money. I could be interpreting all of this very wrong. This is just my opinion, but that's how I see it. Number 4, using the best practices from growing to producing. What are these best practices? Because depending on the farmer, the best practices could be causing deforestation and getting rid of biodiversity, because that might mean that they're getting in there and getting out as quickly as possible, that they're making the most amount of money in the quickest amount of time. That could be the best practices for one farmer, which is not best for the earth. Number 5, I also really hate. If you missed my video on greenwashing, I'll leave it linked up here as well as down below. I think this is probably greenwashing, maybe not RSPO entirely, but number 5 really shouts greenwashing to me, because all it says is environmentally responsible and conservation of natural resources and biodiversity. This kind of reminds me of companies like H&M. They are not an environmentally friendly company at all, but then they have a sustainable collection, or sometimes they'll take back clothing. And then it looks as if, oh my gosh, they're doing so much good for the earth. I love H&M. And like, same with this. They could be causing deforestation, wiping out species, but then they're like, we'll plant a few more native species or something. Or maybe they're using recycled packaging. Maybe they just put a little note on their packaging that says made from recycled material, or 100% recyclable plastic. That could be considered environmentally responsible to some people. And that's why I have real big issues with these standards, is that they're so vague and like so much room for interpretation. I hope they're more clear for the companies that they are certifying. Number 6 as well, consideration for employees and the people in the area. That could be as simple as paying people minimum wage, you know, going into a country, say Indonesia, and being like, hey, people of Indonesia, here's some money, get out of your house, we're gonna destroy this land now. And I feel like consideration for employees and people should be the standard for all companies, not just RSPO certified. I didn't know I was gonna get this angry during this video. Those are my big issues with the RSPO certification points. I hate them all because they're so vague. But something else to mention about RSPO though is that RSPO was created in 2004, but it wasn't until 2018 that they actually got their partners to stop destroying forests, and this rule still has not been enforced on these companies. This is pretty much still just a suggestion, like, hey guys, you should quit cutting down forests, and the companies are like, no. Roughly 3/4 of the forest fires in countries like Indonesia are on RSPO land. So it turns out this RSPO certified sustainable palm oil might be bogus. So some companies might follow the right practices, and good for them. Do you think the bigger companies are? Do you think all of the companies are following all of the standards, especially if they're not enforced? Probably not. So that's why it's really hard to tell if you pick up an item, say from a company like Nestle, that says RSPO certified sustainable palm oil. It's so hard to tell if that item was from a truly sustainable farm or from a greenwashy type farm. And that's where it gets really tricky, is if sustainable palm oil really is good or not. If you guys thought you were done hearing about overconsumption, you're wrong. I'm gonna talk about it some more in this video. The same thing goes with everything that we're overconsuming with palm oil, and that we're using way too much of it. We're using it willy-nilly and irresponsibly. It's in everything from Nutella to bread to shampoo to laundry detergent. Roughly half of the processed foods in a supermarket contain some palm oil, and some palm oil gets turned into biofuel too. And you'll see palm oil written on labels as like palm oil, palm kernel oil, and then there's a third one. I'll just leave them right here for you, so look out for those. So if you haven't taken an economics class, here's a little economics lesson. The more that we consume, demand means the more that they have to produce, supply. It's simple rules of supply and demand with everything that we consume. And this trend has continued rapidly over the last 50 years or so. And that's when, so palm oils are native to West Africa, and about 50 years ago is when we started transporting them to Southeast Asia to start using them for mass production. So the more they farm, the more trees they cut down, and the more environmental damage that is done. So should we be supporting palm oil? Should we be supporting sustainable palm oil? Those are good questions, and I'm still on the fence about it. Yes and no. I'm just gonna tell you that. Yes, because just like with anything, it's good to support eco companies, sustainable practices, and things like that. But again, it's so hard to tell if it's really sustainable or not. So yes, we should continue to support palm oil. I mean, obviously don't overconsume it. Avoid it if possible, but if you buy the occasional product with palm oil in it, don't beat yourself up over it, because palm oil still is more sustainable than other oils. And I hate to say that, but it's true. Imagine if we banned all palm oil and then we had to start using things like sunflower oil, avocado oil, etc. We would have to cut down even more land because palm oil's yield is so high. At least it's causing the least amount of deforestation. I mean, that's certainly not a pro, but it's a step up, I guess. We would have to use so much more land if we were forced to switch to another oil. And do you think those companies would be implementing environmental standards? Probably not. So obviously we should boycott palm oil as much as possible because it's unsustainable, but we should not be trying to ban it. So we need to buy palm oil in moderation. And yes, companies, of course, can switch from one oil to another, but is that the most sustainable choice? Maybe, but also maybe not. If companies can omit oil altogether, then that's great, but some products need oil. It's tricky. It really is tricky. But this leads into another video I have planned for next week, and that is a review of the brand Concentrated. My friend Sarah started this brand back in November, and she makes eco bars, things like shampoo bars, dish bars, lotion bars, and so forth. And her mission is to not use palm oil as well as not use plastic because of the environmental issues behind palm oil. And the great part is that some of the bars contain no plant oil at all. Some do contain oil because you're gonna need some sort of hydration oil for the lotion bars. Some of the bars don't have any oil at all, which is really cool. So if we can write to companies and say, hey, do you wanna consider changing your recipe and using no oil at all? They might listen to you, especially if you get like a group of your friends together to write to them. So I guess if you have to buy palm oil, you have to buy something with palm oil, look for RSPO certified. It's not the best certification in the world. It's not something like B Corp or 1% for the planet, but it is a step up, I guess, above not being RSPO certified, I guess. Yeah, it definitely, I don't know. Is RSPO greenwashing? Let me know your thoughts down below. I think it kind of is. I know they're far from perfect, but it's the only certification we have right now. So maybe we can put pressure on RSPO too to tighten their standards on their companies, write rules that are not vague, actually work to get palm oil production more eco-friendly and more sustainable, because we're gonna run out of land and it's killing the planet. I hope that you learned a lot from this video, and I hope that you found it valuable. If you did, I would really appreciate a thumbs up on this video, as well as if you shared it with others, because this is very important, and I wish I would have known about this years ago. So if you have the time and you want to do a quick share to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, I'd really appreciate it. If you're new here, welcome. I talk about all sorts of things on the environmental spectrum, but I really love to focus on free, easy, and fun ways to make zero waste fun and accessible to a lot of people, and prove you don't have to commit a lot of time and money to living a more eco-friendly life. Something as simple as watching videos like this, getting educated, and quitting buying palm oil might save you money, and learning about topics like this is completely free. I make new content every Monday and Thursday Japan Standard Time, which is Sunday and Wednesday in the US. And don't forget to turn on the bell for post notifications. That is all that I have for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate your time if you made it all the way to the end. Let me know your thoughts on palm oil down below, and don't forget to stay tuned for my Concentrated Eco Bar review, which is a palm oil free small business. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, remember that these small changes you make have a big impact in the long run. Bye guys. But basically today I want to unpack the pros, the cons. Basically today I want to unpack the pros, the cons to palm oil, to some sort of deforestation in order to plant. I feel like my mouth is weird. And because oh man, need a battery. Let me know your thoughts on palm oil. Why did I want to say biofuel? That would be a good video though, biofuel.